You know my story, right? Rise to fame from the pain to glory, right?
My name is Shanti Grossman. My business is A Brighter Year. We make simple and easy coloring books for adults. And I launched in 2020 because that was what was on my agenda, was to launch in 2020. And I was not going to let a pandemic stop me from that, because that's like that's the type of, I am a type A person. So I was like, no, it's written on our calendar. We have the products. We're launching in June of 2020. And I didn't know at that time that like my kids weren't going back to school for a year and a half. Like I had a kindergartner and first grader that like went home from spring break and then went back to school a year and a half later. Right. So I was our kids were doing virtual school, which many people know was very reliant on the parents. I was launching this business and I already had another entire business that I had founded. And I had sent my entire staff home because we worked from my house. And at that point, we weren't in a position where we could or felt comfortable having just like loads of people come into our house every day, which is what was happening. So sent all them home. So I'm trying to get this business run by myself, virtual school, my kids. And then at the same time, I'm like, we're launching another business. Let's do this. So that is kind of how we got to where we are today. If all goes as planned and the stars align, that other business is actually selling and the close of that sale is on Saturday. So we have come a long way since 2020 for sure.
Wow, congratulations. That is so awesome. That is so awesome. So the virtual school piece is what's going out?
Oh, so virtual school that's done. My other business, we sell custom party decorations, but everything is very hands-on, custom, made to order. So you don't even start the order until the order comes in, and from there, people get to choose the color of the party. They get to add the name. They get to add the age, whatever. So it was very, very hands-on. And actually, about 5 years into that business, which for any other entrepreneur, they would have said, this business is so successful. Like, why are you even questioning it? But everything was so hands-on and I was so tied to the workspace that I told my husband, I was like, I'm not retiring on this business. Like, I work way too hard. And I'm too location based. Like, if I'm not here in the garage working in the studio, like, we're not making money. Right. And so I knew that I wanted something that was a little bit more pack and ship. I didn't want to drop ship from China. I wanted to like create a product that was able to be manufactured and that was a little bit more like a pack and ship style of business.
So, and that's the one that is potentially closing.
Yeah. So the party business is the one that we're selling. And then the coloring books, that's the more pack and ship one. That is the one that I settled on, which is the one that we're keeping, which went from doing not very much to 7-figure business in about 9 months.
I want to talk about that too, because so first off, congratulations on that. So is this your first business that you're selling?
It's the first one I'm selling, not the first one that I've started. I read once that most entrepreneurs start 10 businesses before one takes off. I don't know if I'm exactly at 10, but I feel like I'm probably pretty close.
Well, we got to get you started, because I think I was at 16, 17. I have a thing on my LinkedIn profile that has all my failed businesses. So if you're embarrassed about 10, don't worry, you got plenty more to go.
Okay, so my degree's in music business, so I came from the service industry. So I was like managing bands.
This started by booking bands in 2008.
Oh, really? Okay, so yeah.
I started this business in 2008, booking bands. Yeah, it was FreeMind LLC. Yep.
So I was booking tours like nationwide. I was working for big music festivals. Like, I'm in Austin, so I would work for South by Southwest every year. I was working for Miami Music Festival. People would fly me out to work at the big festivals. I was also managing bands, but I loved that. There was not a lot of money in that, as you know. And it got to the point where I knew that we were going to have kids. And I actually there's not a lot of female band managers that last. And I talked to quite a few of them. And I'm talking like big bands signed to major labels. I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of their female managers, and all of them said, like, it's not impossible to have kids, to have a family, and be a road manager, but it's really, really hard. And so you just have to know that going into it. And at that point, I was like, that's not the kind of mom that I want to be. I don't want to be the mom that's like gone most of the time and here it stops in occasionally. And so at that point, I kind of pulled back from the music industry and then started dabbling in like other entrepreneurial aspects. My first business was not scalable at all. I learned that the hard way. My second business was scalable, which that was the party business. But I was very tied to location based. And then this business gives me just a lot more freedom overall.
That's awesome. And so so when you were doing the managing and stuff like that, how deep were you? Where did there's so many questions here because we have similar lives, and I'm assuming, so give me the years when you were in the band in the music industry.
So I graduated in 2005. So 2005 to
same exact time. Yep.
yeah. So 2005 to I think 2009 or 10 probably was when I finally was like, it also was getting to a point where I was like working up in my career that I was like, it's either getting to a point where you're going all in or you got to start.
But also, like you said, I had a feeling you were going to say it because 2010 is exactly when my band management and booking and promotions, that's when I stopped that and I moved into the alcohol industry because that was when the money really dried up in 2009 and 2010 and there was nothing. And I was like, yeah, I was fronting the money every time. I was the one taking the risk and taking the cut at the end. And it was like, it got to be a couple months in a row where I was like, man, I'm fueling this business out of life savings and I'm out of here.
Well, so, and also working like 60, 70-hour weeks on, like, that was like a slow week, right? I remember.
We just had our baby too. Like my daughter, she's going to be 14 in a couple months. And she doesn't have these memories, but we have video and footage of her in her crib. And we used to have the bands to save money. They would stay at our house and we would go on tour with them and stuff. So we have like photos of her in her crib and this one musician, Will Knox out of London that I used to sign his green card papers every year. And he's sitting there while she's in the crib and he's playing lullabies for her. And it is the most beautiful thing in the world. And I'm like, these are like, even though I look back and I'm like, I didn't make $1 and I lost a shitload of money. I have so many amazing stories like of being with those musicians and creating such great experiences for us as well as other people. And I know you feel the same exact way where it's like from a business standpoint, oh, it's the worst line of work to be in. But from a sensory, emotional, and like just creating and goodwill feeling, oh, it's the best.
Oh, and also just like learning so much about yourself and other people and being able to see so much of the United States like in a totally different way. I mean, all of those things. I mean, I'm definitely one of those like lifelong learners, but like I look back and I'm like, man, I learned so much about myself, about other people. And yeah, it was like an incredible time, I think, of growth, which also just happens in your 20s. So there's that too.
It does, but it doesn't happen in a certain, I gotta give credit to people like yourself. And that's why you have to remember, I always do the same thing where I'm like, yeah, well, we were in our 20s, but not many were in their 20s with the experiences that they didn't have to go pay for as a consumer, because the behind the scenes, like all that stuff, those experiences, so many people could be like, yeah, I went to shows in one of my 20s, but when you go to the shows as the puppet master of the whole show and the organizer of the show and part of the crew, yeah, that's a different experience. But let's talk a little bit about with where that all went. I really, now knowing that history of you, and that's the fun part about I don't do any prep for these at all. So I literally am just going off of your TikToks and the social media I follow. And I want to compliment you on your style. And it actually makes 100% of sense when you give you your background now as to what you're doing now. So is it safe to say like this has been kind of a culmination of different things that come together and you've been seeing? Because you definitely are seeing content gaps that you're executing on, as well as deliverable, tangible things for society that need to happen. So I think those X and Y axes, I want to compliment you on matching them. And it's not a surprise to see the following you have because of the quality content, as well as the quality products that you're creating.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say, I remember for years, I would be up working when I had just launched the other business. I would be up working when the kids were little, like at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., right? And I remember listening to the podcast, How I Built This, which was they just interview entrepreneurs, right? And I remember just like a reoccurring theme in there. He would ask people how they got to be so successful. And they would oftentimes they would say it's a culmination of like hard work and good luck, right? Like you have to be in the right place at the right time, but you have to have your foundation poured and it has to be really strong. So when that luck presents itself, you don't crumble, right? And that is absolutely what happened with this business. Like I had a really strong foundation as an entrepreneur for A Brighter Year. I was an early-ish adapter to TikTok. But I was an early adapter to TikTok Shop. And it took me 3 months to get my business launched on TikTok Shop. Some people put in their paperwork and they're up and running in 5 minutes. The other people will tell you the story like I do. They hit all these roadblocks. They were getting error messages. AI was shutting stuff down. Everything was still in beta, like major beta there. But I didn't give up. So for 3 months, almost every single day, I would turn in a customer support chat and be like, this, help, do this. Why am I getting this? And I got through. I launched my TikTok shop on July 20th of 2023, and I went viral on July 21st. And that completely just turned on the faucet for this business, and everything just started pouring in. Orders were pouring in, not only on TikTok Shop, it also turned on the faucet on Amazon. Of course, we were getting orders on our website and Etsy as well, but really for Amazon and TikTok, it flipped this switch. Because I went viral, we had incredible, really quick growth in sales. And that is when people on the inside say, hey, who is this, right? And so what happened was, I have a lot of feelings about this next statement, but what happened was both TikTok and Amazon came to me and said, we want to be on your team. We want to help you. Here are your reps.
I have my opinions when you say that, yeah.
And part of me was like, okay, like, great. I'm really thankful for the help. I'm really like, they were literally holding my hands, and still do to an extent. But at the same time, the other part of me was like, yeah, but like 3 years ago when I launched this business, that's when I needed someone to hold my hand. But like, you want to jump on this bandwagon now that it's like roaring downhill, right? Now you're like, oh yeah, let's go help her. So I do have a little bit of like, I really wish there would have been someone to help me out, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that could be this successful if people would give them that opportunity. But at the same time, I was like, okay, well, you finally worked for, 20 years to put all the pieces in place to have this opportunity. Like, obviously, I'm not going to shut the door in either of their faces. So what happened was I have been able to really stay on top of the algorithm, stay on top of growth, because I have these reps that do help me, that do send me the opportunities, that put me in beta programs, that do all this stuff to work alongside me to help me. With that being said, there are very, very few things that my Amazon rep or my TikTok rep ask me to do that I say no. Last week and the week before, TikTok was here in our studio in Austin. My rep flew down from Seattle 2 weeks in a row to come work with us here in the studio because he needed to work on a project with the seller. I have some of these things like are not fun. They're hard, but I also know like they're all just trying to check boxes too, right? They have a list of things they have to accomplish to keep their job. And when I can help them do that, luckily I'm one of the go-to people. They're like, will you help me with this? When I'm able to help them do that, then if I get into a pinch and I need them, they're normally willing to help me as well. So, yeah, it has definitely been, the last year has definitely been like an interesting experience, not only as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, but also kind of like as a social experiment. Like I look at it from the outside, I'm like, this is so weird.
It is, and it is in the best way possible. And I love how you're not. Some people are too humble. I'll be honest with you, and they're like, "Oh well, this happened. I went viral." You hit the nail on the head. And I actually painted a picture similar where I tell people, everybody always says, "Oh, I was lucky," and then what happens is the mass public just looks at that and says, "Oh yeah, they were lucky. I'm never lucky. Therefore, I'm never going to be successful." And that's one of the problems I think with our society is one of the reasons I have this podcast the way it is I like the way you're presenting it because it's not polished. It's like, you know what, this was hard. Like this, I didn't just jump on TikTok Shop, spend 15 minutes uploading my query info, and then I went viral. I mean, there is a process, there's a strategy. It is a really intentional thing. And while I don't say that to like scare people, I actually say that to say to other people that want to start businesses that it's not, most of it is the luck, because my thing is I say you made it to the stage a long time ago with your execution. So years ago, you made it to the stage. The lights were off on the stage, but you have to stay on that stage because the lights are going to come on. And if you're not there, they're just going to be like, oh, nobody's here, and flip the lights back off. And like, I try to say it as simple as that because it takes effort to stay on the stage. It takes patience. It takes focus. To sit in the dark in a literal sense, it takes focus. Running a business before you hit a sustainable revenue stream of cash is sitting in the dark. It is the same thing. And I think that's what happens is that dark is scary because the dark, you said months that you're in there communicating on a message thread to a help desk. I mean, that's before you got to the point where now, yes, somebody's flying to see you, but there were months and months where you were grinding in the dark.
Yeah. And I mean, even before I went viral, I had listened to a podcast of somebody who had talked about like the TikTok, equation kind of. And she was like, go all in for 90 days. And she said, do 3 posts a day for 90 days. And that's when you're really going to see the momentum start picking up. And actually, I was about to come to the end of that 90 days when my TikTok shop finally got turned on. So it was also like me listening and doing a lot of research, finding out what is the actual formula for what is working for people and pushing through that. And then also it's like not getting complacent. Like I still do 3 to 4 pieces of content a day, but they're different. And like, I don't love doing TikTok lives. TikTok knows this. I do this because they ask.
I hate them so much. I just started doing them because they requested, and it is, I'm not good by myself. I have to riff off somebody.
So like, I'll do the TikTok lives because like that's what they're really focusing on right now. And those people are going to stay on top of the algorithm. Like I will constantly test and try things that are working, that don't work. Because you can't become complacent in a social media culture. There's a consumer fatigue or content fatigue, where even though the thing that used to work and used to go viral every single time last year, like it's just not delivering anymore. And probably because they've heard that message so many times now. So like, how do we deliver that same message in a way that is going to start piquing people's interest again? So it's like, even when you're on top, you don't, especially in social media, you don't stay on top. You gotta continually fight to like keep there, which is also exhausting.
Exactly. But at the same time, when you keep the focus of what you just said, where you didn't call it a platform, and I catch myself calling it a platform, and I'm trying to stop recently because you actually used the term that I just wrote down and I'm going to use moving forward. You called it a culture. And one of the things about a culture that kind of keep it in your mind is a culture is ever evolving and it's a living, breathing thing. So if you think of a platform, then you're in IT world and it's like static and it's constructed. Culture is that's a great way to, I'm taking that from this moving forward is it's a great way to look at it because cultures are going to change by the day, by the hour, whatever. So yeah, and also culture across different platforms. Like our TikTok content delivers, like your Instagram content needs to be very different than your TikTok content. YouTube Shorts is like best right now, so I don't think anyone knows what's going to work. So we're just kind of like throw some stuff up there and see what happens. But like, because I'm doing the same things on YouTube Shorts that I am on TikTok, And I'll get the opposite. Like I watch your stuff and I get the opposite on YouTube Shorts. Like I'll get like a random thing that'll go 10,000 on YouTube Shorts, and then I'll put the same thing on TikTok and I'll get 240 or whatever, you know?
Yeah. And that's definitely the case. And that's not just you. It's happening to me too, and a lot of my small business friends, because YouTube Shorts, I feel like, is so new in the scheme of things. Like even that algorithm, I don't think really knows what it's supposed to be doing yet.
No,
So,
and I think, we're in that transition of that following based versus interest based. And I think what people don't understand is they're still stuck in the following base, where it doesn't matter anymore how many likes you have on your page or how many downloads on your podcast. That's actually now irrelevant. And this isn't my opinion. Like, this is literally, if you go up and you look up interest based platforms, which is what these algorithms are now, they're all embracing that TikTok algorithm, because Instagram and Facebook, like I know last time I've been on Facebook, but when's the last time on Facebook you ever saw something that was interesting? You didn't, because it's full of all the pages you follow that paid for ads to be in your newsfeed. I don't even see my own friends' stuff on Facebook anymore. Like it's not anymore like where I can scroll and catch up personally on anything. Like I don't even log in anymore. I just push out now. Like I don't like peruse it anymore, you know?
Yeah, if it wasn't for the school pages that like you have to stay relevant on to like hear information, I've always said like that's the whole reason I get on, is for my kids, the parent page at the school, because for some reason we're all still very tied into that. I'm just like, can we start any other platform that we
can't. I'd rather move to an SMS for the parent communications than this crazy. Like, let's go back to the chain letters than doing login to Facebook, because there's like, I'm 100% with you. There's a couple times where I showed up at the school and they'd be like, oh, that's earlier or later, and I'm like, well, where? Well, it's on our Facebook page. I'm like, come on, dude. Like that's where we're communicating these last minute changes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But other than that, no, it's just been, Facebook has also come, so just like watching how that like started in my college years, and then that entire trend that like started as like the really hip, like invite only colleges, and now it's only like 65 plus advertising and misinformation. I feel like
when you look at it that way, it's so funny, because like I tell people this story a lot on here, and it's actually relevant to this. Is I was one of the first people that signed on to Facebook. Like I was at Drexel University, and our college was one of the ones that was chosen. And so I was also working in the beer world in Philadelphia selling beer. And I was, it was back when we had to like hit text messages 3 times to get the different things.
Yeah.
And I was always doing promotions all night long. So I had a, Heineken promotion here from 7 to 6, and then another Meet the Brewer thing over here. I'd be out like 6 hours at 4 different places or whatever. And I was trying to get people to come, because all my accounts were like, oh yeah, like we'd love to see more people in the door. Like anybody wants to get more people in the door, like the bands and all that stuff. And I was booking all the bands, so I had no way to communicate. And I started one of the first Facebook groups. It was called Nate's Bar Promotions. And it grew like wildfire in Philadelphia, like 25,000 followers. And it was incredible, because I was like, man, I could write one thing and send this communication to 25,000 people that just want to go drink with me. And like so I'd run around and people would be like, oh, how'd you hear about this? And they're all like, Facebook, Nate's Bar Promotions. And nobody knew who Nate was, because it wasn't my face or anything like that. It was just, the image was, it was a popular image of a T-shirt when you and I were in our 20s. It was like the evolution of drinking, where the guy's drinking and walking, and then he slowly like is just face down. That was the cover photo. So nobody knew who I was or anything like that. They would just show up, and I never said who I was. Like all my friends knew. And 2009 to 2011, presenting Facebook social media marketing campaigns to distributors and brands. I can't tell you, over 100 presentations and pitches, all of them laughed me out of the building. And then literally 12 months later, all of them were calling, but I had already gone into an exclusive contract with one that had said yes. And it was just incredible watching how many of them knew they were asleep at the wheel. Right. And how arrogant and ego, because some of them were funny laughs where they're like, dude, you're out of your mind. And now it's like, what I was presenting it was called Cities on Tap. And it was a singular website where it was a map, and all the brands in all the different areas. Like if it was like that, it would Austin, you could click on Austin, and what it did is aggregated all of the different happy hours and promotions that were going on and put them all into one place. So if you were traveling around the country and you were driving to Austin, you're like, oh, I really want a Heineken. You could click on this, type in Heineken, and it would pull. And this is now everybody's hearing me say this, and they're like, oh, that's easy. No, back then this was nobody was doing, like, this was non-existent. And so it was like, I bought all these domains. I mean, Shanti, I had like $5,000 worth of domains, and I had everything: Austin on tap, Philly on tap, Seattle on tap. I bought them all, and I went and presented this network, and everybody thought I was batshit crazy. And then, sure enough, then what happened was, that's what turned into my career. Was one wholesaler, Ace Distributing in York, Pennsylvania, bought into the idea, and for the next 7 years, they made millions of dollars, and in perpetuity, millions of dollars in distribution contracts, because they bought in on it.
Yeah.
And everybody else was like watching and was like really pissed off.
You're like, I tried to tell you.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I didn't make millions of dollars, but they did. But it's a great part of my case study and resume. And moving forward, I always make the joke to any entrepreneur: don't ever do things for cash just because you need it. Always sign up for the rev share in addition to cash.
Exactly.
That's my one key of advice to any budding entrepreneur: always put a rev share into your work.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Because you only say that after you've learned the hard way.
I look back at 2017 and I was like, man, those 7 years are really fun, but I could have had a great life looking forward. But I want to go back to also to your mission, and I want to bring back over here, and I want to also tell you that my partner has a trading card business where he creates custom trading cards and sells business to business. I want to put you guys in touch, because I think with your work and his work, you guys, whether it's a collaboration or whatever else, you guys are very like-minded people and very creative. And I think there's some good things that can come out of that. So just letting you know, off of this, I'm going to send you an email and introduce you to my partner. And yeah, his name's Calabunga Johnny, and you guys get along really well. Yeah. I've known him since I was at Drexel. We were roommates and everything like that. We played rugby together. I've known him 20 years. Yeah. So
perfect. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I just love connecting. So whoever knows what's going to come out of this. I always go in with an open mind. I'm like, I don't know what's going to come out of it. Let's just talk and see.
Not to mention, I've been to Austin one time, and I keep telling him, I'm like, I want to go back so bad. Like there's certain cities, like in certain areas, and Denver's one of them for me. I've always been there. I've been there a ton. I used to go there every 6 months for work. And Austin's another one. I want to get in there more than just the one day that I spent one time. I was in there way too quick. And I keep hearing a lot of amazing stories about the area and the community and the culture.
Yeah, just don't come in the summer, because it is just very, very hot. But like October, you have to come like in the spring or the fall. Even the winter is nice because it's still like warm here, right? But yeah, it is. When we moved here right out of college, I actually told my husband, I was like, we're going to New York, LA, or Nashville, because I was in the music industry. And he said, we were just dating at that time, but he was like, well, let's try Austin. I've heard it's nice. And it had the live music capital of the world. So I was like, all right. And I told him, I was like, if it sucks, like, we're leaving. So I graduated on a Thursday, loaded up, drove down on Saturday. And we've been here ever since. So it doesn't suck. Although as we get older, sometimes we're like, oh, why do we still live here? But for the most part,
what I was going to ask is it fun is it the context of who I hear the stories from, where it's like, when you get to a certain age and you're having kids, it's like, you move maybe you move 15 minutes outside, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even necessarily that. For us specifically was like, because so much of tech has started moving here, the cost of living has just gone up like exponentially. And that is what you definitely feel, especially when you have kids. Yeah. Like that cost of living creep, living in this city that used to be like really affordable for a big city. And it's like, now it's not super affordable. You're like, oh yeah, that now I understand. Like, this is actually kind of expensive.
That's all. What do you think? Like, what are you here? What do you think from the back end? Like, actually, do you think it was the live music that started bringing people in, or what do you think was the magnet?
Well,
it seems like it was pretty quick. Like, because I went there when it wasn't what it is now. Like, that's why my perception of it's off. Yeah, I remember when you're talking about, like, it was a really quaint, quiet, cool, chill town.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's always been like big corporations here. Like, for instance, Dell has always been here. And I think what happened was there was always these bigger corporations here. But I mean, I don't know. I haven't spent that much time really thinking about this, but it seems like
context to anybody else. This is your anecdotal opinion. This is not the county commissioner giving the information to the mayor.
I feel like a lot of these companies, but the younger generation would move here because they could get the like entry level jobs. But I feel like the bigger corporations that are coming in now, I guess I don't really know, but I don't feel like they're necessarily the entry level positions that are coming in now. And so I feel like right now we really are competing more with like the San Francisco, the big tech hubs like Seattle, San Francisco, and even a lot of those places that have HQs in those areas are also now have HQs in Austin. And so like all of these kind of tech people are moving in with the bigger salaries, the bigger budgets, all of these things. And then the normal people that lived in Austin forever are like, wait a minute, actually, we don't have those budgets and you all are moving in and you do have those budgets. So
I can see that now. Yes, some of it from a out of home advertising and slicing up those pies. I can see that type of stuff sometimes getting really competitive out of the blue. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like houses, like home prices, like all, it's just like the basic stuff, like home prices, all that stuff just has skyrocketed. And then, but even for us, it's just like when everything starts skyrocketing, then like even going out to eat at restaurants is like way more expensive because their rate has gone up. Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah.
What do you think? So what it is from an outsider's perspective is you see that I grew up with that. It was live music. It was Austin City Limits was the creme de la creme. I get chills just saying the word just now. Like, it's like, that was for me the most quality thing that was on television at that time. And I watched it insensibly, like just like all the time. It was always on and it was always on repeat. And I watched it on reruns. When that started happening, what I find interesting now is, like you said, about tech coming there. But what also is interesting is between Austin City Limits, the live music area, now you have things like Kill Tony, which is the largest live podcast in the world that's stationed down there. You have Joe Rogan that's bringing all these podcasters down there. So what is interesting is from my perspective on the outside, what it looks like is really live music and entertainment and creation has become like a magnet. And this is my outside anecdotal opinion, has become a magnet to all that. Or is it manufactured? I don't know. Like between that and then Austin City Limits and all that, it was like, or not Austin City Limits, South by Southwest. Mm-hmm. Then with South by Southwest, you're bringing all these other people and creators and thinkers. And do you think that's it? Is like everything got tied to like that is like an experiential place for creation and ideas?
Well, I don't really know. And what's really ironic is it used to be the live music capital, but a lot of musicians can't even afford to live here anymore.
That was my follow-up question. Was how that changed it?
Yeah. And so really around here, what's happening is all the musicians that are still trying to do live music, they're moving out to like Dripping Springs and Lockhart and places like that. And is it like an hour and a half drive to get from those places to downtown? Yes, that's like a normal-ish commute for some people in big cities, like, right? In LA, that's like an hour and a half is like nothing. But
let's go into the store to get groceries.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like those people who really created like that Keep Austin Weird, really grounded artistic community, I feel like we've also priced them out and they're all getting pushed out as well. And so there's a lot of these more artistic communities that are happening in other cities that kind of surround Austin because that's the only place they can afford to live.
It's interesting when you watch cultures evolve like that, because I mean, I guess in that same time, I spent a lot of time in Seattle and Portland and even San Francisco. And during those hubbub times of when I was traveling from 2008 all the way to 2017, those areas also became the same way where, you know, over time it started out as it was creators, it was entrepreneurs, it was thinkers. But then over time, those people had to move farther and farther outside of the Palo Altos and the San Franciscos. And I mean, I remember I have 3 sets of cousins who are like-minded like us and went to Portland and didn't even make it a year because they were just like, it is not possible to live there and start. Now, if you go there with a big budget and live off your savings, that's great. But to start from scratch, you can't do it there.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like there's still a creative culture here. I just feel like it's a different creative culture.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I appreciate you saying that part. Is like, yeah, there's always different ways to. Sorry, there was a wasp that just came in, so I was trying to while we're talking here. So this is why we do it live, and we don't project. That's why we do post production afterwards. Yeah, definitely just landed on my hand. I don't know what else. Yeah, it's a hot day, so I have the window open. So I was asking for that. Coming in for my coffee. When you started out in the Austin area and you started doing the shipping and stuff like that, how did you scale from when you started? Was it yourself? I'm paying attention to time. Don't worry, we'll be good. Were you by yourself? And kind of walk me through the initial days of starting this out, and also while you're doing that, you had the planning project or the party planning and party gifts where you had the very custom bespoke things.
Mm-hmm.
This is similar in a custom bespoke way as well. How do you have that and scaling and kind of balance out where you started with it and then where you are kind of today? And being that obviously it's been less than a year, which is just incredible about the speed in which you've kind of continually evolved and been agile.
Yeah. So the coloring books were definitely just what I considered like my side hustle to my day job, which most people would have considered at one point a side hustle, right? Like most people say, if you're an entrepreneur, like, oh, that's whatever. That's like a whole other conversation. But that was like the one that was like bringing in the paychecks. I had the employees, but like I knew there wasn't the long-term vision there by about 5 years into that. So, but there was also a lot that I had learned through that about like packing and shipping, really understanding busy seasons, really trying to figure out who your target market is and how we get to them, and those things. So then when I started A Brighter Year, the coloring book business, it was really a side business. I put very little work into it. And what I struggled with as an entrepreneur was I felt like I was giving a lot of time to one of the businesses and let the other one go on autopilot. And then I would switch and I'd be like, oh no. And then I'd put a lot of time and energy into this business and let this one go on autopilot. And I saw that neither of them were thriving in that situation. And so I had followed this other podcast for a very long time called The Product Boss. They have this course called Multi-Stream Machine. And I was like really on the fence if I wanted to do this. But basically what I realized I needed at that point was like guide rails on myself. And what their whole thing was, if you're thriving on one platform, you really need multi streams of income to be a successful business owner. And so I was like, like I could find most of this information. I could figure out most of these things, but like I'm too tired and I need to put guide rails on myself. So I bought this course. And I basically said, I'm not going past this section until I do it for both businesses. So like, I'm going to launch Amazon. I'm going to do it really well for both businesses. And I'm not allowed to go on until it's done for both businesses. And then I was like, and then I'm going to do email marketing and I'm going to get the systems and setup in place for both businesses. And I don't get to go on until that's done. Right. So I put those guide rails on myself. And that was finally when I got into a rhythm where I saw both businesses really thriving. And then from there, kind of what happened was for A Brighter Year, the coloring book business, I launched in 2020. I went viral in 2023. But in January of 2023 was when things really started, the tide kind of turned on the business. I was reached out to a buyer from Magnolia reached out to me, and I ended up doing 2 products for Magnolia silos with Chip and Joanna Gaines. So we did a large coloring book and a small coloring book. And that was kind of the first time that not only did I realize like, oh, I might have something here that people actually care about, but also it was a little bit of like the confidence boost I needed for my side hustle business to be like, oh, okay, like maybe this is actually a thing, right? And so then I started doing that collaboration, and then I started really leaning into TikTok by March-ish, and really went in for my, 3 posts a day for 90 days, then launched the TikTok shop, and then went viral. And then from there, we more or less chased the business for like 8 months before we finally like got on top of it. But it was kind of during that time that I was like, oh, I can't do both of these things, nor am I the person that I want to be by running both businesses. And so then I had to really choose, like, do we pull one back? Do I sell one? Like, how do we kind of go forward with this? And I will say, when I did decide to sell the party business, I had put it up for, I had the business, valued at whatever. We went through this whole evaluation process and I put it up for sale. And everyone who was coming forward that was willing or able to put that sort of money up front, it never set well with my gut to give my business to someone who only wanted an investment business. These are people that were telling me straight up, I have no desire to work in this business. I don't care what your business does. I just want to add it to my portfolio. And I was like that doesn't feel great to me. So on a whim, I recorded a raw video on my phone. Like, it was super emotional, and I posted it in a mom group. And I just said, hey, I have this business. I'm selling it. I'm doing something super unconventional. I'm willing to sell it for a percentage of revenue over 5 years. And I want to give the opportunity to another mom or woman or person of color who isn't going to have this opportunity to take this business if it's someone who really cares about it. And it was a huge risk, and it still is. Like, I could sell this business and make absolutely nothing because I'm taking a 5-year revenue stream, right? They could get it and say, I don't actually want to do this anymore, and I'm out nothing. But even with that, I feel so much better selling the business that way than I would have taking a check and walking away. Now, my husband sometimes is still like, but we could have taken a check.
There's always that counterpart in the relationship. But isn't that check nice?
Yeah. So then we kind of got to the point. And so I ended up interviewing 20 people, got it narrowed down eventually to one. And she's been working alongside us since March, actually, in that other business. So we're getting ready to close on Saturday. But has been like a great collaboration. She's worked alongside us since March, really learning the business, really understanding how we work, what has made us successful up to this point. And then through that, I was actually able to also split my entire staff. So like, part of my staff is staying with my current business that I'm keeping coloring books. The other staff is staying with her. Like, no one lost their jobs. Everyone got more hours, like, it's been like such a dream, best case scenario to be where we are now. So then now that we're just going all in for coloring books, I mean, it is definitely different because we don't do as much like hands-on manufacturing. Like, I print here locally in Austin, Texas, or in Central Texas. So like, we don't even work with manufacturers overseas for our coloring books. Everything gets manufactured here, gets dropped off at our warehouse. We're still like, we're a really big, successful business, but it's like still definitely small town, like family oriented businesses sort of like vibe and culture.
That's perfect. Well, I appreciate you taking the time today. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I feel like I say this all the time, but I really mean it after these conversations. I'm looking forward to many more with you, and I'm not kidding. When we get down, we're going to get down to Austin, and I'm going to take you up on that Q4, Q1. We'll grab coffee, whatever you can show us a little bit of whatever your favorite spot is for coffee, and would love to meet you in person. And I really appreciate you taking the time today to talk about your business, because one thing we didn't talk about, and I want everybody to check it out, A Brighter Year, get on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all of that. What we didn't get into is the real core. The mission here is really evolving mental health, moving forward, and positive energy. So everything you just heard about what her mission is, and exactly, did not know your structure of the sale of this business, but it exactly exemplifies your mission. And I want to thank you for constantly being core to your mission. And no matter what money you end up making, or if this business lasts at that 100 years or 10 more years, right now in this moment, I want to feel this with you, because your business is called A Brighter Year, and you've built a 7-figure business in less than a year. And not just for yourself. You built it while it was empowering other people, while it's been bringing joy to strangers that you've never met. And no matter what money you've made, just thank you for being that kind of a catalyst in the world. And especially, I say this with a little fear mongering in the next few months, that businesses like yours, I feel like, are going to bring the joy to people that really don't have a lot of joy in their life, and a few months and beyond. But I just there's a lot of things that I share in my episodes about my own mental health and things like that, and I think that there's moments where even as an adult, I'm 6'3", 250 and covered in tattoos. I find soothing time sketching, coloring, and in the lines and all this stuff. And it is something that if you're in that mindset and that neurodivergence or that mental health or just that anxiety and needing to check out because the world's fucked up, and then check out A Brighter Year. Get some of these books in there. If nothing else, if you're nervous to buy something offline, watch the videos, see her process, listen to the passion in her voice, watch this episode. Thank you so much for taking the time today. And I really do look forward to many more conversations with you.
Yeah, no problem. It was great talking to you too. And yeah, we'll connect again soon.
Excellent. You have a great rest of your day. You take care.
You too.
If you're an aspiring entrepreneur or one that's looking to expand, contact the FreeMind Network today and we'll help you scale, we'll help you start. We're going to